screwed up my share, so I'm gonna do it one more time so that it works properly. I'm sorry about that. Give me a moment. Just get rid of this for a second, and then we're gonna go pow like that, and then we're gonna go like that, and we're gonna go. Tonight's broadcast awesomeness is going to show you what I did today. And what I did today was help install a ceiling fan. And I know that doesn't sound like art, but there's an art to it, you know. There is an art to that. There's also some new videos. Another one is processing currently and it's not ready yet. But I got some new videos, some Twitch stuff from a couple of games I played the last few nights, a Vindictus video and a couple of Star Wars videos, and then of course the page 18 stuff. Right now what you're seeing is more background work done on page 18, where we were yesterday didn't have the trees and everything in there. So you'll see a video in the page 18 playlist on Dante Maddox's YouTube page. I know my YouTube page is my name, or YouTube channel is my name, which is not exactly on purpose. I had a YouTube channel from my old website that I, at the time, was posting stuff for that website. And then when I wanted to sort of make it a more broad channel that wasn't just for my website, I had a hard time changing the name of the channel, like officially, like YouTube gave me some static. So I ended up just going back to my original account linked to my Gmail, and from there, well, you know how it goes. From there, it was like, it's easier to start a new channel with just my regular YouTube profile. So that's how I ended up with Dante Maddox the channel, which is, I don't know, it kind of, yeah, you know, it is what it is. I did notice some settings options that are maybe more recent, where I can more easily change that information. I just have not done that. That's it, yeah, I haven't done it yet. And I figure I've already branded all this crap with, you know, my name on some stuff, except for my Twitch channel, which I needed a gamer tag, and my gamer tag that I've had for a long time just doesn't really, I don't like it enough to plaster it everywhere, you know. But both my YouTube channel and my my Twitch channel, like, the name of it just kind of has like audacity, like, you have the fucking nerve, you know, like that kind of thing. But, you know, it is what it is. So let's talk about page 18. Page 18 of, I want to say, 23. So I'm like almost done with pencils. And tomorrow is Saturday. Now, I might get I'm going to definitely get some Twitch streaming in tomorrow morning, like Saturday morning cartoon style. But that might be like the butt crack at dawn for the West Coast people, and then I'll just kind of get it out of the way because I just want to veg out for a little bit tomorrow. But then after that, I think with a Saturday and not having a whole lot on my plate, I'll be able to hopefully get page 19 almost done as far as the pencils go, and then it's on to 20, and so maybe like by mid next week you will see some videos with inks and value, and then the inks should go a lot quicker because it's more like about brushing and brush strokes and less precision. There'll be some precision because, like, this page, when it comes to the inks, is going to take some serious effort. Like, all these trees and stuff you see in the image, the bushes, I'm going to go over again with inks to give them more of a natural feel. Like, if you look here at this tree here, that's not going to be there in the final image. And also, I'm using my pencil brush, which I really like for a lot of reasons. And one of the reasons I like it actually is because when I go to do the inks, I kind of have more to do, which gives me more options artistically. You know what I'm saying? Like before, I drew essentially in Photoshop as if I was drawing with an ink pen, and I think that kind of slowed me down. And also, it made part of the work less fun because I had to be so careful, even though I have Photoshop. So now that I'm, like, you see these pencil drawings on the shoulders of Simon here, and the lack of value. Now, sometime next week, when I dive into the pen, to the actual inks, I can clean all this stuff up in earnest, and I think it'll go smoother, and I can still pull out a few extra tricks here and there as I go. I don't know how much drawing I'm gonna do live, because it seems like the live drawing and just the need to focus, I feel like my art suffers a little bit, and also I end up not accomplishing much, you know. And so it's not like it's a waste of time, but it doesn't really display necessarily what I'm doing. I feel like when I look at the videos later, it's like, okay, look at some okay art to start with, and then it gets kind of crappy as I'm working live. So there's a few things I want to kind of show off, and it is like, okay, so this section here, the buildings in Metro are gonna look like, okay, there's an oil derrick off of like Long Beach coast, I guess, along like Ocean Avenue in downtown Long Beach. But if you're driving in Long Beach, which is in Southern California, and you look out to your right, you know, depending on which direction you're going in, or it could be your left. That was a dumb thing to say. But it looks like a big art piece. So it's actually like an oil well or oil drilling platform. And from what I gather, what I was told at least, was the city itself was like, look, if you want to do some oil type crap out there in our bay and in where people can see it, we don't really want the eyesore. So if you want to do it that bad, you have to make it pretty. And they did. They made it pretty. And that idea of maintaining an aesthetic for a number of positive reasons kind of stuck with me in a society that had mastered so many things in terms of my fictional story, that have mastered so many things like the weather and global commerce and resources. Like I haven't even gotten into what money is like in this world. It's a whole different situation. I use sort of like Star Trek is a big influence, not in story elements, but in the sort of like the philosophy of how they draw from reality to create their fantasy, you know. And so I love the idea of 3D printers, you know, and the things you could do if you ran wild with your imagination in terms of 3D printing. And so in this world, 3D printers factor into the monetary system. And I don't want to go into greater detail because I think I could spend a good 15 minutes of a show just talking about the awesomeness of 3D printers and whatnot. Let me take a quick audio check really quickly here. Thank goodness for delay. There it is. Okay, I got audio, just to make sure, you know, because I would hate to do like 30 or 40 minutes and then look back and it was just silent. That happened me a couple of times on Twitch when I thought I was like telling all these funny jokes playing this game, and then I watched the video and it's just silence. It's just a ninja on screen running the damn muck. And the muck is interesting, but I think me making fun of the dudes who are dying by the dozens around my ninja made it even better, you know? Like, I don't have a lot of popular videos. I don't think the word popular and video should be associated with my account quite yet. But one of the videos that has the most views, which is a minuscule amount of views compared to like your average YouTuber, still is funny. Like, it's funny. Like, it's kind of funny, you know? But yeah, so the one thing I mentioned earlier in in one of my Facebook updates, like letting people know that the show was going to be on, and like I don't have a huge audience quite yet, and I may not have one for quite a while, but I'm working on a few things with my Patreon account to sort of get that thing to be of use to me more than it is, because right now I feel like I just have it and it's like a cool thing to have, but I'm not using it properly. And that's kind of a microcosm of me and technology. Like, I know how to use a lot of it, but I don't ever use it properly. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so yeah. But to me, this image here, this picture, this cell, this panel here, is the most telling of the world of New World. Here you just have perspective and trees and stuff that looks fairly straightforward, except for you can see the building design I was talking about before, with the focus being on aesthetics. Like, so the buildings all look super like weird and angular, and look like they don't really like they're moving, and in a way a lot of the buildings and things are moving. And the reason they're moving is something I developed last year, an idea I developed last year about an artificial environment, because in the previous episodes I talked about New World being called that because the Earth as we know it was almost destroyed, and in the effort to save it, they basically put the entire Earth under a giant biodome, right? So you don't have regular weather, you don't have weather patterns, everything is artificial, including the rain, you know. I haven't really decided how I want to address natural occurrences like earthquakes and stuff. I could just totally science fiction it and just say they don't exist and never explain why. I just haven't really thought about volcanoes and earthquakes and that sort of thing. But you have to really do a lot of like fictional work to explain away weather patterns, the effect the moon has on the planet and all that stuff. How come there's no thunderstorms? Where the hurricanes all go? And so I haven't gotten to explaining all of that yet, but one of the things I do want to start establishing early on, especially in Metro PD, which is going to be focused on such a small amount of characters, I'll have time to do a lot of that world building, is that because there's no clouds in the sky, there's sort of like the idea of automata, where it was something we studied in class once, where the closer you get to reality, without it being reality, the more disturbing it tends to be. And I thought about the psychological effect it would have on a group of people, even if they didn't know anything different, of not living in what we would consider the natural world. Like, what would that do to them psychologically? And so I figured, okay, if you could come up with even fictional psychological disadvantages, well then within the realm of your fiction, how do you solve them? And so one of the ways I solve them is I have mechanical clouds. Now, I know that sounds kind of silly, like, what do you mean, like a giant metal cloud? Well, yes and no. See, basically, as a kind of a tip of the hat to the Jetsons, part of the city is always moving. And it's literally parts of the city that people can interact with. Like, imagine if you wanted to go to the grocery store, you had a couple different options. But one of the options was literally to go to the roof of your apartment building and wait for the grocery store to fly by or float by, and then you just take this like the moving tube thing, and you go up to the grocery store, and that's how you go to the store if you so chose. Because a huge part of the commerce and social services and stuff are literally these airborne flying flotillas that are constantly moving and changing shape and reshuffling themselves in a weird sort of very slow flight pattern. Now, on the inside of these giant flotillas, everything is stable and everything is secure to walk around in and all that stuff. But on the outside, it looks like it has all these weird kind of moving parts that actually serve no utility or function. Like, there's nothing about the moving parts that have anything to do with the thing flying or what's going on inside. The moving parts are just pretty. It's an idea to show movement and therefore life, because if without them the world looks stale. There's no clouds, there's not a lot of wind. All the weather effects are artificially created to give a semblance of nature, but there is no real nature in that sense. The sunlight is even not as strong as it should be to grow plants. Everything is like under a biodome. Think the Martian on a planetary scale, or like Coruscant in Star Wars. And so there's the clouds in the sky, what we would consider clouds, something you look up at and imagine being different things. Imagine instead of a cloud floating by while you lay in the grass on a park, the mall floats by next to the post office and the police station. And so you're going to see, I think on page 2 or 3, I have a quick travel scene, so I get a chance to show off some of the technology that the main characters utilize. She goes to work up. She flies up into the air to go to work because her job happened to be on course. And so this picture here on screen is Kofi visiting his girlfriend, and then behind him is like basically a part of the city. Now the perspective is a little off, but I always, again, it's Photoshop, I have time to make those adjustments and changes. But the rough stuff up here is one of those kind of floating by buildings. And I got a couple of screenshots or images I'm not going to use because the format of the book changed so severely that I'm probably going to end up making into stills and putting in the special edition that this book is going to be when it first releases. Hopefully, maybe next month, depending on how quickly the ink and the coloring phases go. So the other thing you're going to see in this image, and you're going to also see this on page 1. I think I might actually just open up my Deviant Art page and show you some of those images because they're on my other computer still. I don't really need them right now, so they're still on my other hard drive. So they're not readily accessible without like digging into my cloud storage and maybe possibly sharing personal information on the internet, you know. But on my Deviant Art page, there's a couple pages I think I'd like you to see tonight, which will kind of depict more of the technology, especially the interior of people's apartments. A big influence on how I draw the interiors of rooms and living spaces comes from Minority Report. I really liked how you knew it was the future, but they maintained that aesthetic that people would find pleasing. Like, as cool as Blade Runner is, as cool as I, Robot, the movie was, as cool as some of the other futuristic movies, I thought they went a little so far into the future that they forgot about the conservative aspect of every single human being to the aesthetic, to pretty, to things that are pleasing to the eye. Too much of the future seems ugly and like moves like the Running Man and stuff like that. Like, I think that, you know, you would have, of course, maybe if your economic instability maintained going forward in the future, extreme differences between the haves and the have-nots. But remember, this is a hyper-idealized world and more in the vein of Star Trek than it is Blade Runner or Running Man. So there's going to be a point in the story where you do have more of an economic imbalance, but I'm going to really do the heavy lifting in terms of storytelling to make that stick and make that work. But for now, this is sort of like the nadir or the pinnacle of their completely utopian style way of life. So you're going to see everything's going to look clean and cool and nice, even in this quote-unquote seedy part of town. And so the window is, right now it's faded because the layer is reduced opacity. But truth be told, everything is a facade. Nothing is functional in that regard. So her window isn't really a window in that sense. The windowsill and like the outside having the look of a regular apartment, that's all just for looks. There's no function to any of that. So when you get to this scene, the idea is, give me the hand. There's the hand. The idea is from the outside, this is gonna look like a regular apartment building with one of those wooden things with the ivy growing, and I'm gonna embellish all this to give it like maybe a brick exterior or something like that. But once you get to this scene here, you're gonna notice that inside her apartment doesn't match the exterior. It's gonna look almost like, you know, clinical, a mauve sort of color that you can change whenever you want. If you want your room to be red, you just say so and your room is red, that sort of thing. And this little box here is gonna have like controls for opening the window. You see, imagine if every single part of existence was like an air-conditioned room. Windows wouldn't serve the same function. There's no sunlight in this world. There's just light, like a light. Like the best example, if you've ever been to Las Vegas, there's a place I think it's based on like France or maybe I think it's the Bellagio Hotel. There's a mall where you walk in and there's a fake sky that kind of it can't recreate natural light because it's almost impossible to recreate natural light. And that's sort of the point to the new world environment. That since natural light is almost impossible to create, I'm not going to make them able to do like literally everything that's impossible. And so natural light isn't a thing. So plants don't get UV rays the sunlight the same way they would in the regular world. And you don't need to open a window for warmth or cooling or anything. It's just pretty. So he's looking through what's more like transparent steel or a view screen if you're a Star Wars fan, not really an open window. And so you're going to see like a control panel and a complete reverse of what the exterior of her building looks like. That's why it looks so barren. And speaking of that, because we're already at the 21-minute mark, and I don't have much tonight because it's Friday, 5 shows in a row, baby. I feel good about doing 5 shows in a row, and hopefully next Friday I'll have 10 shows in a row. I'm just going to keep this ball rolling until I get more than one viewer a night, because I can. It's fun to do this even though there's no one listening, because I think no one's listening, so we'll see how that goes. Okay, so let's quickly go onto the internet, and I'm going to try to avoid you seeing anything dirty or naughty, because, you know, I just don't give a crap. I actually turned my music off. Okay, so let's be quick about this. Oh, see, that was dirty and naughty right there. All right, so this is my DeviantArt page. So let's look at is it my gallery? I don't think it's going to be. Oh, it is my gallery. Okay, so here are more nearly completed pages for Metro PD, and these are going to be in the book. So I showed you one page the other night. I really love this page. This is like my first cop page, and this is where you're going to see police work, you know. And I think if you watch one of my page 18 videos, I accidentally pull up the original 3D figures. Now the colors are slightly off for Max. He looks a little pea green. That was because I was working out in the sun, and the natural light screwed up my vision of the screen itself, and he ended up being pea green. He's supposed to be sort of more of a, well, not pea green color. And this is as close as oh no, there we go. Okay, that's even closer. And so that's Max and Kofi doing their cop thing. And then Max, of course, because he has superpowers, literally flies away when he gets a phone call, you know. So yeah, that's sort of, but this is like one of my favorite, like the reason Design Doll was such a great pickup for me is because it let me do this kind of perspective in a matter of seconds instead of sitting there fitzing around with the breakdowns until I got this right. Like I hate to fall in love with any of my art, but I did fall in love with this panel right here. I think it was the perfect cop sort of, you know, image. You know, so this is part of the main plot of the first book, or the first issue. And so let's see here. The other one I wanted to show you is this one here. Now, again, these are not completely finished. The opacity on the inks are turned down for this, so you can kind of see more of all of the work. And some of these textures are just placeholders, but you know, I'm a huge Spider-Man fan, and so there's going to be an aspect of homage to Spider-Man's movement. And so that's how she gets around. She has not web shooters, they're laser ribbons or something. I haven't got a complete name for it, but she's going to be able to do all kinds of stuff with them. She's my Wonder Woman type character in the story without having that sort of background. So these are like her lassos of truth and all that good stuff, you know. And then but basically she's going to be moving along to go to work, and he's standing in a floating flotilla out on the deck, you know, and waiting for her to show up. Yeah, okay. So let's see. There's only one more I wanted to show you. I think I showed you guys that yesterday. It's this page right here. Okay, so this page starts off with her getting up in the morning and she's heading out to work. And I got a chance to play with my word bubbles and a couple of other cool things that'll show up later in the story. But this is what her apartment looks like as she leaves. Now, I know this picture doesn't have much in it, but that's really the point. You see the lines on the floor and the lines in the wall. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and I said if I had like all the money in the world, what would my house look like? Well, I said the house where I would do all my work in would look like an empty room with all these grooves everywhere. And when I flipped the switch, the grooves would turn up to rise up to show like desks and chairs and whatnot. And then when I was done from work, it would all go away and the room would be quiet and empty and clean again. And so that's kind of how I envisioned the apartments and living situations in this world. So her table, her bed, and all that stuff just kind of folds back into the ground. And also, I'm going to eventually show you another character's place, and you're going to see the difference because your lifestyle will dictate how you sort of do your thing. And so she's having some serious trouble, nightmares, hard time with the visions of the war that they are all veterans of. And so I wanted to kind of show the her feeling of isolation in her own living space. She doesn't like being at home. She doesn't have to sleep very much because she's super, and so she spends a lot of time out there, just out and about and not having to go to sleep to dream about the horrors of war. And I don't know if you can see this here, but on this is the news, and she's listening to or watching the morning news before she heads out for the day. And there's gonna of course be a way to use what's it called, the news to give exposition, which is a total cinema sins no, but I don't care. I think it's cool. And then I'm gonna introduce like Omninucleotide is gonna be a company that's gonna matter in the story, and there and then also uh, in this little word bubble, which I think you can see on your if you're watching this full screen, it does immediately tip you off to a change in the economic system and the way money works. The money is going to be called source, and it's really cool because it took me a long time to figure out a lot of things in a quasi utopian world. There's no guns, there's no pistols. The idea of gunpowder and bullets came and went so fast that they never really had a generation of dudes making assault rifles and stuff. They were already an archaic, useless weapon that can vaporize you with a taser laser or some crap like that or whatever. So the other thing is there's a date on the screen that tells you the date, which is like April 6th. No, April 14th, 1985 is the date in this in on this day. It's 1985 in her world, and I think the next screen, which is or the next shot is the title shot, which I don't think I purposely left off of. Yeah, I left that off of Deviant Art because I didn't want to give away something like the title page. So yeah, so let's I don't want to play any commercials during my broadcast because I might get in trouble for that. So we're just going to close this down and go back to Photoshop to wrap it up for the evening. We had a short show tonight, which I think people might appreciate more if they look back at this later. We're at the 29-minute mark, so a half-hour show, no commercials. I'm just saying, like, that's not impressive at all. But I'm saying it anyway that I did it a half-hour show with no commercials, and it felt like a 6-hour show with a bunch of nothing but boring commercials about Photoshop. That's what it seems like to me. But I'm self-deprecating, but not self-deprecating humor. I don't know how to do both. Okay. Enough of the sad attempts at jokes. All right. So, what you'll see on the video that should be ready to post in a little bit, and it'll be in the page 18 playlist folder because I'm going to put all the videos per page in their own playlist. And I don't know how much stuff I can keep on YouTube. Like I figure there are YouTube channels that have been around for a long time, and I don't know if they ever have to go in there and delete old stuff. I have no idea. So I guess I'll have to find out the hard way. But of course, Kofi's hand here on his right hand is going to go away because he's outside. The tip of his bald head is going to go away, and I'm probably going to dump the arm, even though I wanted to have it bleed out of the shot. The problem is I made faster this way. I made them bigger, and so Simon bleeds way more out of the shot than originally he did. And the thing about that is I don't want to overdo that effect, and I really like it, so I don't want to overdo it. So I'm going to lose Fiona's arm there and lose the bleed out here. So I'm not overwhelming with the same trick over and over and over again. It's like too much lens flare in a Star Trek movie. Also, some of the bleed I have to be careful with because when I go to print, at my publisher, the publishing software and all that kind of stuff, it's hard to get the automated, quality checker to leave me alone on some of the page bleeding. Like it's like this is gonna bleed and we can't let you do this. And I'm like, well, it's my book, but and they got rules. They don't make no crappy books. And, they made my novel. So what do they know about crappy? Because that novel, oh my God, you should read it for 99 cents on Kindle so you can be angry with me for wasting your 99 cents. But, the graphic novel version of that book will be awesome because I'll have a chance to go in there and fix a lot of the things that are wrong with the book. Mostly is the book doesn't really establish what it's like to speak in their world. The dialogue, I don't know, like there's no consistency to the vernacular as far as I'm concerned. As far as a few of the people who've had a chance to look it over are concerned as well. That's one of the most recurring issues with the book is you can't tell when they're speaking as they would be inhabitants of their world and not like a commentary based on how I would speak necessarily. It's pretty tough to get that consistency going, and that's something I have to work on in my storytelling. There is a consistent dialogue here, and it's because this story is far closer to reality, where the Lineage of Dirge is a straight up fantasy novel based on D&D, and well, every one of my stories has a racial component, even though I don't try and like horn in a certain racial breakdown. Like Lineage of Dirge is sort of the experience of post-slavery America, for African Americans, and well, wow, Metro PD and New World Chronicles is sort of as well. And the only difference is one, Lineage of Dirge is about a loss of cultural identity, and New World Chronicles is more like a genetically engineered race of super people. Because if you look back at slavery and how they bred slaves, they literally genetically engineered a race of super people. That's why we dominate sports and other physically based things for so long, and and they had to create drugs to kind of keep up. Oh wait, I'm kind of delving away. I don't want to do that. So we're gonna wrap it up before I get in trouble and start talking about some stuff that had nothing to do with comic books and stories. But even though that does true, so like if you consider New World Chronicles in that regard, it's sort of like another take on an aspect of the black experience in America, but with capes and lasers and fire. Wait, that is described part of Punkadelic. So with heat vision, no, there's no heat vision. Um, um, there's no guns. There's no guns. No one uses a gun in any. Oh wait, no, I take that back. There's one. Okay. All right. Okay, guys. I talked enough. Thanks for tuning in again. It's our last show of the week, so I'm off tomorrow night and the next night, and I will see you guys at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, if I count my hours correctly, because I'm on the East Coast. So it could be 9 p.m. there. I don't quite know for sure, to be completely honest. I just assume it's 8 o'clock there and hope that I'm right. But I'll be back Monday night, and there'll be a ton of videos on my site. Please hit like and subscribe, or don't even hit like, just subscribe. I need 100 subscribers so that I have my own actual URL. And so when I share my link, it doesn't say youtube.com channel all the letters of the alphabet, so people don't think that I'm sharing some kind of weirdness with them. It'll say my name and stuff, so it's like a branding thing for me. So if you could subscribe to my channel, that would be awesome. I greatly appreciate it. Ignore my Patreon account for now. I have a lot of work to do on that. Once it's properly reconfigured, I'll tell more people about the Patreon thing. I think I kind of missed the mark on the purpose of it all, and I kind of didn't do that right. But I got some good advice today on how to get that squared away, and so I'm going to take care of that. Also, I can't help it. I've been drawing comic books all day and putting in ceiling fans and everything in between. So I'm gonna log into Twitch in a little bit and play a video game. I'm really thinking about playing the Ghost in the Shell first person shooter, but I don't know. Usually first person shooters make me really sad after a while because it's just the same thing over and over again. So I might split the difference and play a little Warframe. Not quite sure. Gonna take a little bit of a extended break from the computer and like leave the keyboard and mouse alone for a minute so I don't completely fry all my auditory and tactile senses and stuff. But check out my Twitch channel, The Blurred King. I'll be on there in a little bit. And thanks again, and have a good night. Turning it off now. There we go.